on a lot of these altcoin charts, here's Ethereum. I have a ton of trouble being bearish on crypto, even on altcoins. Many of you know the sentiment right now, absolutely terrible. You might be watching this video and you are just not bullish on altcoins. You think it's game over. I'm focused on the data, and there are many things driving what is making me bullish. One of those things, just one of those things, is this. ETH ETF inflow, 70 million yesterday. Blackrock is buying the Ethereum dip. We're continuing to monitor institutional positioning, not just with Bitcoin, but in the altcoin space. And this is such a big deal for me. We're looking at Polymarket odds, we're going to look at an article in this video, but we're looking at just odds of altcoin ETFs this year, quite high. I'm focused on data. I'm not focused on retail fear and retail negativity, because at the end of the day, that's something that happens every cycle. Many people are frustrated that altcoins have not delivered amazing gains as of right now for this cycle. But that just is what it is. When I really just zoom out on these charts and think about it, I would have liked to see a bull market sooner for altcoins, but it's kind of like, get over it. It hasn't happened yet. But that doesn't change the fact that the positioning and the strategic preparation for a bull cycle is useless, because yet here we are. The opportunity right now, in my view, is stronger than ever. I want to talk about Ethereum. I want to talk about this Ada Whale post in relation to Cardano. We're going to look at Cardano charts, but I'll give you a little teaser. Cardano going from 25 billion to 100 billion is just the equivalent of Bitcoin going from 100,000 to 103,000. I really want to break down what he's talking about, and then we'll look at charts as well in this video. So please hit the subscribe, hit the like on the way in. And if you haven't checked out our intelligence system, please go check it out. Link below. We have a very big 40% sale going on right now. Risk models, just exit planner, where we can use risk models to plan our exits in this cycle. And we have members kind of using this system right now. Go check it out if you're interested. So let's go over to Ethereum. We're going to do some analysis on Ethereum price. But before I do that, I do want to just lay the groundwork with talking about the Ethereum ETF. What's happening here? Why are institutions like BlackRock positioning themselves with Ethereum? If it's game over for altcoins, Bitcoin's taking over, altcoins are going to zero, why are institutions just positioning themselves right now? And don't you think it's a better data point than what retail is doing in the YouTube comments? I do. Ethereum ETF saw 84 million net inflow on May 28th, after 38 million on May 27th. This was the 8th straight day of positive ETF inflows. The steady growth indicates that institutional belief in Ethereum's long-term value proposition is growing. I wanted to point this out to you. By 2025, Polymarket puts the odds of ETF approvals for assets like XRP, Solana, ADA above 70%. Major investors are already positioning for broader exposure of digital assets, while SEC decisions are still pending. SEC decisions were pending for Bitcoin as well. So the fact that these approvals are being delayed and pushed off is nothing new, but we might start seeing approvals this summer, in which case the timing of that could be phenomenal from a perspective of what we talked about in yesterday's video. The quantitative tightening slowing down, the money printers basically soon turning on, things of that nature, right? The balance sheet, the expansion of the Fed balance sheet beginning. That's what we're waiting for. So let's go look at Ethereum in context to all of these things, and we can really start breaking down even the short-term price action that's going on this weekend into this week. I think it's a great roadmap for every altcoin, even if you don't hold Ethereum. So this is Ethereum on the weekly. I don't want to spend too much time here. You know what's going on. One thing I wanted to note is I was looking at this chart, and I did find it interesting because, something like Cardano, Ethereum, we're very much, I have been just looking at this area back here in terms of where we are right now. What I did find interesting is when Ethereum was kind of in this move at a very similar risk score, by the way. If we go look at the risk model for Ethereum at that area, right now we're at 35 on a risk score, but this move back here, you can just see kind of in the 40s, dipping into the lower 30s, September 2020. And if we look at that move, a lot of similarities in terms of kind of structure and consolidation before a bull market, risk model scores before a bull market. But notice how Ethereum was pulling back into the 20-week. It's above all the moving averages. And I don't know how I feel about this yet, but this is something that I think is incredibly crucial to evaluate right now. And I'm saying like now, even in the coming weeks, we need to see Ethereum get above all these moving averages. This coiling and consolidation is something like we've not seen before on a lot of these charts. But there comes a time where the trend needs to flip above these moving averages for the bull run to start, right? So we are at that critical time right now. It's not like we're pulling back to the moving averages like last cycle for support. We're contesting with the moving averages right now. That's what Ethereum is doing while being at the lower trend line of this multi-year triangle. So it can go either way. There could be massive rejection. I do not know. But this is a very valuable piece of data to track as we're kind of waiting for the altcoin setup in general. But I want to zoom in and I want to talk about this. And this is really, this is a patience process on Ethereum. We just saw how Ethereum is testing the lower range of that triangle. And look at this, for a month now almost. That is insane resistance. We've been waiting for the pullback. We got it. And now we are, no surprise, seeing resistance there. Let's take a quick look at this clip from 2 days ago. But at the very least, I think it's good just to even watch the 20-day moving average at 2,500 or just above 2,500 and this lower trend line very slightly below that area. Maybe Ethereum does dip to that area, but maybe. So even this might fail, okay? Going this week, we have target to the downside, $2,100. Keep it in mind. It just is what it is. And it would be normal. We came out of this crazy capitulation. Putting in a higher low somewhere is normal. And the target is 2,100. But what's kind of exciting, at least right now as I do the video, is the bulls are still in play right now. They really are. The bulls are still in play. If we actually go to the bull bear arena, even on the short term, we can see that the bulls have not completely lost control. The bulls and the bears are kind of duking it out right now, as it says in the arena. And you can just see this consolidation that we see on the charts happening on this shorter term indicator. It gives a good sense and visualization of what's going on from a shorter term momentum perspective. But here's what it looks like on the daily chart. But just notice right now, just potential higher low support at the lower trend line of this pretty small ascending triangle. What we want to see is Ethereum to start breaking up and breaking out. Because if that happens, the target to the upside is kind of like up here in the $3,200, $3,400 area. But it's what that means for the larger story here, even the bull market story. It will be breaking into the apex of the triangle. This is such a big move if it happens. And the setup could be here right now happening. But we have to wait and see. And maybe we get a fake breakout to the downside and we're pulling back in, right? Later in the week or something. Maybe we do hit the target and we have to wait longer. I don't know how this will play out, but really good insight on the short-term Ethereum charts for every altcoin holder right now. We want to root for Ethereum price, even if you don't hold Ethereum. And it would be great to see Ethereum actually, the bulls step in and make a move to the upside. Let's go over, we're going to look at the Cardano charts, even on the short term, and talk about the Cardano dip. Before I do that, Cardano Whale had a very long post over here on Cardano and within context to Bitcoin. And this one part stood out, especially because we're going to be doing some price analysis. But I see a lot of posts. People are just like, ADA does nothing. ADA's just, it's game over. And they act like it's a Cardano thing and not just in general right now an altcoin thing. All altcoins are down. Altcoin holders are waiting for altcoins to make a move. But this is really good insight. Cardano is all that. He's just talking about decentralization, I think, and everything that Cardano has makes as much noise. Cardano makes as much noise on here as Bitcoiners do. True, if not more. After 7.7 years, Bitcoin was $10 billion. Cardano is $25 billion. Cardano does 10% Bitcoin's daily transactions. Similar tech, so comparable. Yet it popularly seems a profoundly unloved and misunderstood asset that, to add insult to injury, gets lobbed on a pile with Sui and Tron, which, unlike it, can be replicated 1,000 times over before year end. And I think I think Cardano is slowly starting to distinguish itself apart from those things. And I think actually much of the space is starting to see that. But yes, it does still get kind of lobbed into the mix of just general altcoins. Cardano going from 25 billion to 100 billion is just the equivalent of Bitcoin going from 100,000 to 103,000. It operates on a different stage of the adoption curve, needs far less liquidity to make a big move. It has its own story and growth curve. Whether it pops now or 2026, 27, no idea. And I agree. None of us know, but it's great to read posts like that from Cardano Whale because it reminds me, and not even just with Cardano, but just I think the broader Cardano market or altcoin market, maybe Ethereum bulls that are out there, they have their own bullish thesis for Ethereum. It's nice to see a macro view on altcoins and not this zoomed in view, which I think a lot of people online and in social media have, like especially a lot of comments I receive lately. You can tell the people that are just frustrated that we've not gotten basically this. Boom, 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 boom. That's essentially, I think a lot of the negative comments I receive are because that has not happened. And, a lot of people act like that's my fault or something. But what has happened is we exited the bear market in a higher low move. We had a nice little pump, which was nice, and we're consolidating right now. And this structure and the consolidation of Cardano is just something that just literally happens all of the time. This is nothing new. But right now, Cardano is still up from bear market lows. It's putting in a higher low. We have to give it time, especially as we wait for the Fed and quantitative tightening to slow down, all that good stuff. But all that stuff is slowly happening. So it's nice to see a Cardano Whale post with a macro view, a macro thesis, a sound strategic approach to an altcoin like Cardano. Because that's what I'm here doing. That's why I'm here. I'm not here to just say, hey, everybody, buy Cardano. You're going to 20x it. Let's go. You can retire tomorrow. That's not why I'm here. This is a long-term value play. So that's Cardano. Cardano on the weekly, we have a general sense of what that's looking like. I'm not going to go over it. This is one of the most popular charts to track. Really quickly, in reference to what we did look on Ethereum, we were kind of just getting a picture of Ethereum on the weekly, how it's kind of contesting as resistance to these moving averages. I do find it cool that ADA on the weekly, if you notice, kind of is looking to get these moving averages as support. So it's kind of like a little bit of a reverse of what Ethereum is doing. And no surprise, ADA is kind of just coiling between all these moving averages. And it's something similar that did happen back here. And if you notice the date, the September area that we just looked at of Ethereum, very similar for Cardano. But I want to do some short-term analysis for Cardano in this video because we obviously have a nice little dip going on. And I want to mention right now, and we're going to talk about this dip could continue. Be very careful. Don't just get a shorter term bounce like this on the daily. The daily candle looking pretty nice right now. I know it's red, but just wicking down, back up. Be careful. This dip might not be over. And for context, I want to just share this clip. I just posted this earlier this morning. Check it out. If ADA kind of fails at these moving averages on the short term and actually dips down right now, I think we should be on the lookout from a swing low to swing high, Fibonacci area, higher low area. I don't like talking about it, but the move would make sense for multiple different reasons I'm going to tell you in just a moment. So we can talk more about why it's making sense, but we got the move. That was 74 cents. Right now we're at 68 cents. We wicked down to 65 cents. What I want to point out to you is we have not even hit the higher low Fibonacci. Maybe we won't. It would be phenomenal to kind of just hover above it and then make a move to the upside. In a similar way, you can see, and this is one of the areas we were kind of comparing why this move would be normal. You can just see ADA falling below the moving averages multiple times back here before actually making a breakout. And I'm not saying we're going to get a breakout like this, right? We might get maybe we get some support and we get a slower like uptrend. This was, remember, the elections, a lot of pro-crypto administration, anticipation, very bullish time. So the way in which Cardano escapes all of this consolidation is not necessarily going to look like this. So please don't think that. But all of this just dragging out that we get in Cardano consolidations is just normal, right? So this can continue where we're just dragging out, people getting frustrated. And I said it in the video, people gonna get frustrated if we're visiting this area. People are already frustrated visiting this area. But the other reason was this. If we go back, and I know I talked about it, I think in that video, it is, again, this area, the September area back here into October, higher low Fibonacci, swing low, swing high, higher low Fibonacci support, ADA looking like it's just kind of failing. And imagine if we don't know what happened next here. And this is the Cardano chart, right? It's just like looking like it's about to fall deeper into the bear market, or, you know, it's just going to start testing all down here. It's just going to keep falling. And look how fast things changed. And look also how far away from all-time highs ADA was at that moment. But ADA had a nice run ahead of itself. The similar thing is happening now, and ADA is even more bullish. We just talked about ADA ETF, Cardano ETF. And what I just, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I think these are good points because these are the things that are driving me to be bullish on altcoins. And it would just be awesome if a lot of the people that watch my videos don't just click my video, see the thumbnail, and comment right away. It would be awesome if right now they were 16 minutes into the video watching this and just kind of just say, like, absorbing the data that I'm putting out there, right? At least the thesis that I have is not crazy. I really do not think it's crazy. And I think it's incredibly helpful data for anybody paying attention, not just to Cardano, but to the crypto space, to the altcoin space. So again, this is a big piece of my thesis, all of this data coming together and the consolidations and the patience that is here. Anything can happen. I always say I do not know what's going to happen. This is my approach to the market. I'm not recommending anybody take my exact approach. Make your own decisions, everybody. But this is how I'm balancing my risk, and this is what I'm seeing on all of these charts. So ADA on the short term, just to kind of sum this up, there's more downside in play. 64 cents, 58 cents. Be careful for it. You go to an 8-hour chart, I think could add a little bit of valuable insight. You know, we have the 8-hour getting oversold, which is a nice start to kind of illustrate the beginning. I have no idea where that just went. There it is. But illustrate the beginning of the end of the consolidation. But even still, who knows? ADA price might fall into our Fibonacci, go lower, 58 cents. What will the RSI be doing? Can we put in a higher low? Can we get some bullish divergence, right? Price falling, but higher low on RSI to set up maybe an uptrend for ADA to test key areas. And going over to the daily chart, key areas are very obvious. 200-day, 82 cents, 20-day, 75 cents, 50-day, 71 cents. And you can just see right around 69 cents, literally right around where ADA is right now on this chart, the weekly, the bottom of the bull market doors. Cardano continuing to contest with that area. Let's see how the weekly closes. Be great to get just a close even above the 200-week moving average. Above 70 cents would be great. But let's keep an eye out for that 50-week at 64 cents. And that's closer to our Fibonacci range on the daily that we just looked at. So these are my thoughts, everybody. I hope you're doing well out there. I appreciate you cruising through. Hang in there. I know many of you are frustrated with altcoins right now, and I get it. Believe me, I get it. I would very much enjoy for altcoins to be moving a little bit more powerfully and not just down for months, consolidating sideways. I'm in that boat with you, but I'm just trying to track the data. I'm trying to zoom out. I'm trying to focus on the bigger picture here because this opportunity is something that I don't think comes around often for people. And here we are. So these are my thoughts. If you enjoyed this content, please subscribe. Hit that like button if you enjoyed the content. I'll see you in the next video. God bless.